So for today, I have another video that has some Bring Your Chaos Challenge mode missions. I personally think the ones in this video are a little bit more interesting than the others, but still not quite worth having their own videos. But at the same time, are either really cool challenges or have a lot of really fun strategies to them. So this first strategy is Torna's finest on Bring Your Chaos. So this is a two-phase fight, and you fight Petroka and Akos the first phase, and Mikhail and Malos in the second phase. So as you can see right there, you can kind of cheese the first part of this fight by just blowing down Petroka and Akos off the cliff. You can do the same thing with Mikhail if he's in the middle of using a special, otherwise he'll no-effect it, and Malos will always no-effect it. So what we're going to do for Malos is we're going to take him down with the Eye of Shining Justice. And for Mikhail, we're just going to try to blow him off the cliff with Ultimate Lightning Fury Slash every time it's charged up. I was able to get it pretty quick here. It only took a couple uses of it to actually get it to working. So now we're just going to focus on art spamming on Malos. Since it's only a single target and doesn't have a lot of HP, it's actually pretty useful to use Pandoria here because she has the highest single target DPS in the game. And with Dagas active, we're able to increase that damage even further, and every time we get crits, we're going to be doing a lot of damage to him. Since you always guaranteed to annul guard with Pandoria as well, it's also very useful how we don't have to worry about anything interrupting our art spam. So we can just end this fight pretty fast. You can end this fight faster if you get some better crit RNG, but overall this was still a really nice time here. I got all the really good RNG I needed early on, and this is a 120 for Torna's finest on Bringer of Chaos. So the next time here is a really short time. It's Chickenheart Challenge on Bringer of Chaos. Very similar to the normal and easy mode times. We're just going to end this time in one art. This time we're going to use Screw Edge with Opening Art Plus on Fiora. We auto-attack so we can Noise Dampen her into the art. We have Aggro Boosting Gargantuan Feather on Morag, so the ones in the back are going to rush to the front, so they'll all end up getting hit with the Screw Edge AoE. 9 seconds is basically perfect. I had to settle for a tie on this time. So this is one of the only records I'm not going to have alone at the end of this. This next time here is Dino Drama on Bringer of Chaos. I debated making this one its own video, but I decided against it. Just because it's very similar to the normal mode and easy mode times I've already uploaded. And it's basically a very similar, almost carbon copy strategy of the one that Hyper T showed off a long time ago. So what we want to do is charge up our party meter a little bit by smashing this dude twice, as well as getting our level 3 special up as soon as we can and getting Elm with max affinity. Once Elma's at max affinity, we're going to set up a damage over time effect on the Goliath Soras. It's going to end up killing all these other enemies as well with the AoE for phase 2. And then we can get started with phase 3. So we set up the damage over time effect on the Soros, and we're going to leave our AI to deal with them. So the first thing I want to do here is get rid of this Livid Upa for anything else before he uses the Shackle driver on me. Otherwise the run's basically just done at that point. And now I want to line myself up to where I can hit both of these mammoths with Universe Flicker. I've got enough agility to where I can hopefully avoid all of their attacks. And if they end up blowing you down or anything like that, then you might be in for a bad time. I get all the agility, evasion luck required there that I need in order to actually end up having a pretty solid time, for a potential for a solid time here. So now in phase 3, we got our level 3 special up again, so we're going to again use Elma's level 2. But we can't use it on the Soros because obviously we can't get rid of the gravity because it's our damage over time effect. So we target one of the Terexes, use the level 3 when Dagas is going to be active so we can hit all of them and kill all of them. And now the only other thing we have left to deal with is this phase 5 enemy besides the Soros itself. So the Upa's going to walk over to us, and we need to kill him as soon as possible before he ends up getting his Shackle driver off. And now the last thing we need to do is kill the Soros. As soon as we kill the Soros, the fight is going to end. So 142, that's a really solid time for that challenge. Very happy with that one. It's going to be another difficult challenge to beat. So this is another time that potentially could have had its own video, but it has one really glaring, jarring mistake in the final phase, and that's the reason it didn't end up getting its own video. It still ended up beating the record by 3 seconds, but this could be a lot better if you get the required RNG needed. And there's also a new discovery recently where you can get Nitro to blow up early, that there might be a way to take advantage of on this challenge, but I'm unsure. So, in the first phase, ideally, we're just going to use art spam to get rid of all of them with Corvin's Galactic Strike art. And now we're going to use this phase to get our blades to max affinity and swap around a lot because we have the World Tree drop on Zeke. The thing about Nitro is that since you can't really kill him, it's actually not a bad idea to swap around blades, and it makes the World Tree drop worth using on this, just like on the Google challenge. So I basically just have to wait for him to blow up, and we can get our blades to max affinity at the same time that aren't at max affinity. So we can just get a lot of swaps in here. That's going to help us a lot as far as increasing our damage for the subsequent phases after this. So because it's Bringer of Chaos, he will blow up a little bit earlier than he normally would. You can make him blow up earlier by setting up an orb on him. We discovered that. It's very difficult to trigger, and I'm not sure how you do it on the Bringer of Chaos strategy specifically, because all three of these blades on Zeke are actually really important. But there might be a way to save some time here at the very least. Good thing is, Morak's going to be active on Shulk, so self-destruct's never going to be an issue here. We'll always be able to Monado Vision it, which is very nice. So now we have Phase 3 coming up. It's just going to be a bunch of motorcycles in either corner of the stage, and once again we're going to use Corbin's art spam to get rid of them as fast as possible. Now towards the end of Phase 2, what you saw me do was use a special that's going to make Morag swap to Daga, so we have the AoE we need for this phase. We can manipulate our AI by doing that. So the other three motorcycles from their side, we're trying to get them to walk towards us so we can hit all of them. And we end up getting a pretty decent time for finishing that phase. So now this next phase, there's really annoying robots that have a lot of HP in either corner of the stage, over 10 million each. So we have to develop a strategy to try to power through them as easily as possible. So what I do here is start overdrive for this phase, because we're going to get the party meter back for the final phase during this phase anyway. So we get rid of the enemy in the middle as fast as possible. We target one of the Cavalier Sovereigns over at the side, and these enemies are going to have a lot of HP that we got to burn through as fast as we possibly can. And luckily we do have the blades to try to do that, and ideally my goal here is going to be to wait for Torna's break here. We're going to have Corbin set up a level 2 on it, and then after that we can kind of use a mini DOT strategy to kill him and start fighting the other Cavalier Sovereign while my allies are dealing with that. So I swap back to Corbin here because his level 1 special has the property of healing, so that's what we're going to want to do here. And the first Cavalier Sovereign's going to get killed while we heal up. So now the second robot we're going to have to take down in pretty similar fashion if we can. Except this time we have Tor's level 3, and we can use that as we self-topple him. And that's going to add a lot of additional damage here. And damage over time effects can be pretty strong. We just got to wait for Tor to break again, and we'll be able to topple him, and that should be basically the end of the fight here. This was a really good Phase 4, and that's the only reason I ended up beating the record in this time. Just because the final phase did not really go this well at all. So ideally, you'll notice that the final phase can go a lot better than how it did. I get a little unlucky with my AI here. Ideally, you want to set up Corbin's level 2 special in a launch with all your World Tree drop stacks. And you'll be able to do that hopefully before Rosa's able to summon her little soldiers here. That will steal your entire party meter, which can be very annoying in this fight. So I swapped to Telos because I got to prepare to topple here. So I get ready to topple, and of course he uses Ultra Bang Bang at this time, which is going to make him no effect to topple. And we're going to lose a little bit of time to that, and it's going to summon the Rosa, the mini Rosa that's going to make this annoying. I don't get the topple again, so my damage over time effect is unfortunately set on the break, which is okay, but it's not as good as it could have been, so the damage over time effect in this fight is going to be very lacking. We're only getting about 120,000 extra damage per smash, and we should have had a higher damage over time to start out. So unfortunately, it's definitely a less than ideal phase here, but everything else about this was so good that it ended up working out anyway once I was able to kill it. So Telos is the ideal art spam here just because once Rosa enrages, she'll take reduced ether damage, so it's better to use her than anything else. She doesn't exactly take quite the same elemental damage that Carlos would, but Telos still does a lot of damage regardless with World Tree drop stacked up. And she ends up being very good art spam on Zeke just because Zeke has a lot of damage with axes, and we're very happy that he's able to do this. So luckily, if there's one positive here, my drivers, AI drivers, are doing a pretty good job of continuously smashing to increase the damage over time effect. It should have already been capped a couple smashes ago, and we could have had a really nice time here, but I am still very happy with how this time went. So Rosa does do spike damage, so you see my health continuously lowering in the corner over there, so I will have to go get a health pot really quickly and stop using my art spam just to make it safe to continue fighting the rest of this time. One of the Rosas randomly appears there. They have really weird times within they can spawn. But luckily, we were able to kill that pretty quickly in this fight. And a 5:37 is going to be our final time here, beating the previous record by 3 seconds. Like I said, there's a lot to optimize on this challenge still, and that's the only reason I didn't really have its own video. But it's still pretty good time. Pretty happy with how I was able to do the first 4 phases, and we'll get a better time on this eventually. And I believe that's going to lead us to our final challenge in this, which is just going to be this year's Heropon. So this is 13 whole phases of enemies here, and it's a bunch of Nopon, and all we have to our name is a Torna and a Cutie Pie. Technically we have the other 2 forms of Poppy, but why would we ever want to use that? So what we're going to want to focus on here is using a lot of steady beams to AoE down the enemies as fast as possible. My equipment for this, I've got Critical Restore 1 on Cutie Pie, so we'll always make sure that we're healthy, and then I've got a bunch of damage boosting stuff besides that. Affinity Max Attack, Challenger for later stages, Vendetta because they can only target me, Outdoor Attack up, just about everything you might expect in this challenge. We are Earth Element because Stone does a lot of immediate damage, which is going to be very useful for some of the phases later on when we're fighting single enemies that have a lot of HP. We're pretty much maxed out on Art Recharge because we just want to be using as much arts and steady beams as possible to AoE all the phases down. Now I try to align myself around the part where all the phases will spawn, but there's a couple times I do forget where some of the enemies spawn, so I probably lose a few seconds there. But this was still a pretty solid time besides that ended up beating the previous time by about 28 seconds. So, you'll notice in this challenge we see the names of all of the Nopon throughout the game. But we have a Cutie Pie, so we really don't care about any of them at all. Now, I think I might have a noise dampener just to increase my art damage as well, but I can't quite remember. I do know I definitely had Crimson Headband, because that's going to be a big source of damage boost as well. Make sure you have Pinpoint Weakness on your Cutie Pie. That's a very important Nox score to have. And make sure you have the Moon Matter Core Chip. And ideally, you're going to want to get her to S+ rank Trust to do as much as possible. So Nira is our first little mini-boss here. He doesn't have as much HP as the others, so we can just focus on mostly using art spam instead of any specials here. And that's about exactly what we do. With good crit RNG, you can end these fights pretty quickly. And overall, there's really not as much to say about this as I would like. A lot of it really is just using your steady beams as much as possible to hopefully AoE all the Nopon down. You can run Boom Boom Laser here, possibly for more AoE, but the AoE on that's like in a straight line, so it's really hard to actually work properly for this mission. And Swooshing Swash is not only a lot faster, but it ends up doing a lot of damage that we might need later on some of the enemies. So overall, the goal of this challenge is, like I said, you want to AoE as much as possible, and once you get to the later phases of the fight, you're going to want to set up a fusion combo effect with Stone and end the enemies as fast as you possibly can. This ends up being a very long challenge, like I said, and now we're on to a part where we're seeing all the Nopon from Xenoblade X. Coco was Tatsu's mother, and overall this is a really nice, I like this challenge just because it shows all the Nopon from the series, and it's really fun to do just from seeing all their names and having to fight them. None of them are really challenging at all to Torna, because Torna is just that broken and obviously the best Nopon who has ever existed. I love Torna. I love Cutie Pie. And he's a big boy, so he's not worried about all these little small fry Nopon here. So these are all of Tatsu's brothers and sisters, and we're not worried about them either. Tatsu's just going to go ham on them. Sorry, I mean Torna. Tora's just going to go ham on them. So now that we killed Tatsu's entire family, he wants to come seek revenge against us probably, but we're not really worried about him. We're just going to wreck him just as simple as we did the other ones. It's funny because Tatsu ended up being a bigger issue here than some of the other Nopon. He was the one who actually got the closest to kill me because he summoned some bombs that were actually pretty dangerous. So the goal here is set up a fusion combo, and then we can, I guess we don't actually level 1, we can just use arts, which is actually a little bit quicker. He gets evasion, and then his turnip bombs blow up and almost kill us, but luckily my lifeline activates, and I end up being alright here. Now, if I would have ran away a little bit sooner, it probably would have been better, but I was, didn't think Phase 9 was going to spawn that quickly. So now we have Nopon from Xenoblade 1. Zazadon, he was involved in the Red Pollen Orb side quest, if you remember. I don't remember all these names. I'm sure I'll get refreshed on them very soon, though. And we're going to have a couple more waves of Xenoblade 1 Nopon, 2 more, and then we're going to have another fight. Or another little mini-boss fight for Torna here. But once again, I don't think they ever expect you to have your Torna this freakishly strong, so even on Bringer of Chaos, we're just, like, destroying these Nopon, and we'll destroy all the little mini-bosses, too. Since you only have one driver, they didn't really make this challenge all that difficult. I know I technically almost died to the turnip bombs, but that was my own fault more than anything for even standing close to them. So now we got phase 11, which is going to be the last phase where we have to AoE some enemies here. And I think these are some of the heavy hitters from Xenoblade 1. I think Bana's in this phase, maybe. And he was the drug dealer. I can't remember. He might not be. He might have been in an earlier phase and I might have missed him. No, there's Bana. He was the last one here. So he was the red polymorph drug dealer from the first game. He had that big side quest chain. He ended up getting Tragic Decision played for his boss fight, which was really funny. One of the only times in the game it does that. And now we fight Ricky for party member superiority. Who is the best Nopon in the series? Well, obviously it's Tora because Cutie Pie is just that broken. Sorry, Ricky. So our goal here is we're going to use a couple arts and get the level 1 charged up. We're going to break as our last art here, and then use the level 1 special, and stone is going to be enough damage to hopefully kill him here straight up. He does have a little bit of health left. Ricky's a little bit tankier than I thought he was, but we can use one last art here and end up killing Ricky pretty easily. But despite that, that is not the end of the mission. We have one more Nopon we have to take out. This is Monopon. This is the mascot of Monolith Soft. You'll see Monopon on Monolith's Twitter at times, so they had to, of course, make Monopon the mascot here. Now, Monopon is very disrespectful and talking on the phone, even though we are an extremely powerful Cutie Pie here. So we're going to do much the same strategy we did against Tora. They know affect the break really quickly because I think they're getting off their phone, but we're not really worried about that. I end up using my stone a little bit earlier than I probably should have. I should have tried to break, but it ends up not being a big deal, and now I'm just going to try to finish this fight with art spam. And Monopon is just really not taking me seriously here, so we just end up killing them before they can really do anything. And that's going to be this year's Heropon in 5:59. Sub 6 minutes. So that gives me 5 more times to add to the list. I've still got some more videos planned that's going to show off some of the more interesting challenges in their own videos. So please look forward to that, and thank you guys so much for watching. And if you have any questions about gear, make sure to ask in the comments, and have a wonderful day.